Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. So I'm wanting to make some more videos about different topics. I used to do more of this earlier on in my channel, but lately I've been just hyper focused on the Second Coming because it's primarily a Second Coming channel. But I have this spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z, and it's not just Second Coming stuff. It's all sorts of topics. And one that's been on my mind and that I kind of want to focus on a little bit going forward is money in finance. And I don't know why, I'm just kind of being pushed that direction. So this last week, we spoke to a second realtor. The first one was like, oh, you got to do all this stuff with your house. It's not even close to being ready to sell. She's from Wichita and she's like kind of a bigwig over there. She's kind of like the queen of real estate in Wichita, maybe even Kansas. And I think she wanted us to like really up the value of the home. So it'd be worth it to her, I believe, because we got a second opinion from someone that's here in town, and she came over and she's like, oh yeah, all you got to do is just fix the plumbing and you're good. Just keep it clean. And we were just like, kind of taken aback by the difference in, their responses. So it's looking like we're probably going to move to Kansas City like we wanted to. We were trying to do it last year, but I think it's going to happen this year. And so we're thinking about money. We're thinking about mortgages. And, but not just that, recently Caitlin with Anticipating Christ's Return, I'm sure you saw her video where her husband lost his job unexpectedly. And so they're thinking about money right now. And then yesterday I was talking to a friend from Saratoga Springs, a friend of mine and Jenica, and she is looking to move. Like she wants to move to a new place, a one-bedroom apartment, but everywhere down there in like Utah Valley is just ridiculously expensive. And, there's this issue of like needing to make enough money so you can have a place to live. And also she really needed the insurance for a thing that she has, like a medical condition. And so I don't know. I'm just like, I'm thinking about money, and this may become more and more important as we get closer to the Second Coming. We don't know what the future holds, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some economic trouble in the future. Maybe sooner, maybe later. So let's do it. Let's talk about what the church has said about money. And I've added some new categories on my spreadsheet, some new rows. So I have credit cards, home equity loans, interest, living within your means, materialism, and 2 salaries. And there's going to be more topics. There's like, I know that the church has given out so much advice when it comes to personal finances. And hopefully we're listening. They told us a lot of this stuff. Like a lot of what I have here is from like the 80s and 90s. And the church will put out stuff. The Lord will, give inspiration to the leadership of the church to put out stuff ahead of time so that we can prepare for these kind of challenges. And so in this video, I didn't really know where to start. There was 2 things that caught my eye. So I want to talk about home equity loans and then also 2 salaries. But there's going to be so much more. Okay, so let's just start with this. This is President Thomas S. Monson, at the time, first counselor in the first presidency. Constant Truths for Changing Times, April 2005 General Conference. I already have some like highlights on here. This one's from a different video. This one I'll address some other time, but we're going to read the purple and the blue. Okay. My brothers and sisters, I'm appalled at some of the advertising I see and hear advocating home equity loans. So hopefully you know what that is. Maybe you don't, if like you're younger, or I don't know, like where you live. I'm sure that home equity loans are around the world. I don't know, but it's basically where you take out a loan against your home loan. Like you've paid like the principal down, and so you have your home's worth. So you've had the amount that you pay down and what it's actually worth, and then you can borrow money against like that worth that you've freed up. Sorry, I'm not very elegant when it comes to financial wording, but hopefully you understand. So it's like you're opening up a line of credit almost on your home's value. Okay. So the promotion for such loans is designed to tempt. Okay, look at that, tempt. Designed to tempt us to borrow more in order to have more. Yeah, and I've seen this. I'm sure that you have too. People like different companies will be like, yeah, take out a home equity loan, buy that car that you always wanted, or go on this trip, or consolidate your debt. Yeah, that's a great idea. And consolidate your debt. Well, yeah, you might have like a lower interest rate. I think that might be some of the appeal to it. But generally speaking, it's probably not. I'm just going to go with what President Monson is saying. Tempt us to borrow more in order to have more. What is never mentioned is the fact that should one be unable to make this second house payment, one is in danger of losing his house. And you'll have to tell me, is that still the case? I've never taken out a home equity loan. We were looking to do it actually because we have this septic that we may need to get a new septic, and it's really pricey. It's it's a lot. It looks like we're going to be able to pay for it with cash, thank goodness. But we were exploring the option of a home equity loan. But is that true? Is that like a principle of home equity loans, is that you could lose your house if you stop making the home equity loan payment? Let me know if you have knowledge on that. Okay, so home equity loans. Now we're going to move on to kind of a different subject, but still related. Avoid the philosophy and excuse that yesterday's luxuries have become today's necessities. They aren't necessities unless we ourselves make them such. Many of our young couples today want to begin with multiple cars and the type of home mother and dad worked a lifetime to obtain. Consequently, they enter into long-term debt on the basis of 2 salaries. So both mom and dad working. Perhaps too late, they find that changes do come. Women have children, sickness stalks some families, jobs are lost, natural disasters and other situations occur, and no longer can the mortgage payment based on the income from 2 salaries be made. It is essential for us to live within our means. And you guys, I've seen so much of this. I'm not trying to point fingers, but I've seen my peers, I've seen the young people of today, and this is true. It's like they want to start out with a brand new home or a house with a pool, or, there's like an aversion to starting out like in an apartment or something like that, something more humble. And yeah, it's, they want to like fast track the process. They saw how they grew up, perhaps, and they're like, oh yeah, that's what I need to do for my family. And then they think that they need to start that way, but you don't. And I'm just talking from my own experience, but that's not how me and Jenica started. We lived in an apartment. I joined the Army. I was in the Army for 3.5 years, one enlistment, and we lived on post. And then when we got out, we rented a house in the Phoenix area, and it wasn't until moving to Kansas that we bought this homestead. And now we're looking to move to Kansas City and maybe upgrade, but it's like after all this time of working up to it, and living within our means. Ever since we had our first child in 2008, Jenica has not worked. That was the core value of ours. That's how I grew up. My mom stayed at home, and I feel like that made a big difference for me, psychologically, emotionally. And we we wanted that for our kids, and we knew it was going to be a sacrifice, and it has been, but it's been worth it. It's been worth it. She has not had to work. I've had to do some really crappy things, like join the Army. And then before that, work at just like these call centers and different places, but it doesn't last forever. It doesn't last forever. Like, you can get through it for, a few years, a decade, whatever. It doesn't last forever. And I don't look back to the past with shame. The past is in the past. It's just like, it's done. Who cares? No one's thinking about it. No one's thinking about, oh, you used to live in an apartment or whatever. No one cares. Like, a lot of people just live in the here and now. And even here and now, nobody really cares where you live. Like, you may care because you're playing the comparison game and you feel like you need to keep up with family members or your circle of friends. But even then, nobody really cares. I don't know about you, but there's never been a time that I've looked at somebody that has a nice house and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you have so made it. And I just can't stop thinking about the nice house that you live in. I go home and it's like, oh my gosh, that person's house is so, no one cares. No one cares, unless you're trying to like fit into some like social clique. And if that's the case, there may be some deeper issues. Okay. Turning luxuries into necessities. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. This one is from President Spencer W. Kimball. Actually, let me double check here. At this time, he was Elder Spencer W. Kimball of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. Back then, they more often called it the Council of the 12 Apostles. October 1963 General Conference. And the name of the talk says it all: keep mothers in the home. Now, I know that this is going to ruffle feathers and it's not meant to, but please spare me the Jared, you've spoken such hard things to us, more than we can bear. It's not me. It's not me. This is Elder Spencer W. Kimball, and this is the general idea in the church. And I know that there's sensitivities. I know that there's exceptions, and I know, but there's also, we can't just ignore what I'm about to read. This still applies today. This is 1963. It still applies today. It applies to all ages of time, from Adam and Eve until the end of the millennium, I'm sure. Okay, so he gives an example of this like mother that stayed at home, and he saw like the interaction between her and her kids. And then he says, this mother too could have had a job. Her children also could use more things her wages could provide. She also could have rationalized. This is key right here. She also could have rationalized that 2 salaries could give her children more advantages, more outings, travel and vacations, more clothes, gifts, and luxuries. There's that word again, luxuries. And I'm not trying to point fingers, but I know that we all see it on our Instagram and Facebook accounts. Maybe we do it, which is fine, but maybe let's reorient ourselves a little bit. So rationalizing, we need this money because we got to go on cruises. We got to go do this. We have to go to these sporting events. We have to whatever. Like, do we really? Do you really? Okay, but continuing. But this mother knew well that a child needs a mother available more than all the things which money can buy. The Parents magazine says, quote, "The feeling of security is the core and foundation for good mental health." Let's pause right there. Mental health has been on the rise, like mental health issues has been on the rise. That's been talked about in General Conference. There obviously could be different factors, environmental factors, such as like chemicals, exposure to certain things. True, that very well could be. But I tend to think that a lot of it comes from this. I can't remember who said it. I think it was a 70 where he was talking about the desolating scourge. And his talk was about mental health, that he thinks that One qualifying definition of the desolating scourge mentioned in the scriptures is the rise in issues with behavioral health. It's like throughout the world. The feeling of security is the core and foundation for good mental health. Most of the married women over 35 in the labor force, says this authority, are working not because their families really need the money, but in order to maintain a higher standard of living, get away from some housework, and lead, as they suppose, a more interesting and richer life. I'm going to pause right here. Sorry, I know some people don't like my commentary, but I'm not just going to read directly from people. I need this is my show. That's what makes this show unique to me. I can't just copy other people's stuff and then just regurgitate it. I need to add something to it. So this is where I think sometimes toxicity and narcissism come in. Essentially, people that are of that type, they live life in such a way that everything is about appearance or how people view them. That's what gives them their sense of self-worth. They're unable to, I'm not saying that you're a narcissist if you're a woman and a mother and you're working. I'm not saying you're a narcissist, but there's some people, some, not all, some, that they're not concerned about children. They're not concerned about core values. They're concerned about how they're viewed by others. So for some people, for some of those narcissists, that may come in the form of, look at me, I'm so successful in my career. And it brings them praise and attention, and that's what regulates their feelings of self-worth. Because they're very fragile individuals inside. They don't do life in a healthy way. There's so much I could say about that. But I think sometimes this is what drives some of this behavior, is you're more focused on your image, your false self. You want people to perceive you a certain way, and that's more important than everything else. Let's continue. A prominent judge listed the causes of juvenile delinquency. Juvenile delinquency. So mental health, juvenile delinquency. First, destructive toys and games, excuse me, such as guns and other symbols of violence. Second, working mothers. And third, fathers who work 2 shifts, absenting themselves from the home except to eat and sleep. Now, of course, you do what you have to do to provide for your family. You can't let your family starve. But are you working 2 shifts because your family's going to be out on the street if you don't? Or is it because you're trying to afford a boat, or you're trying to maintain your lifestyle to show off to other people? Is it because of your love for career? Well, no, you wouldn't work 2 shifts for a love of career, but you get what I'm saying. Is that why? Okay, continuing. His long list of causes ended with this: lack of religious training and discipline in the home and schools, and lack of love in the home. That's something that narcissists do not have. They do not truly love. They don't. I can't get into that whole thing. You can look it up yourself. Look it up on YouTube. They don't have love. My reference is Judge Jacob M. Broad of the Circuit Court of Cook County, Chicago, Illinois. These lacks were inherent in the parents, but it was the children who suffered. It goes on to talk about all these stats and statistics. I think I wanted to skip that, but I didn't highlight it in that way. And then it says, it is shocking. This is Elder Spencer W. Kimball. It is shocking. Nearly 1/3 of our young matrons, 18 to 24, are breaking the law of God in not bearing children, or if they are having children, are they neglecting the helpless little ones? Again, there always has to be disclaimers like this. It's not saying that if you don't have children yet, you're breaking God's laws. There's people that, for whatever reason, don't have anybody to marry for whatever reason. That's like different than if you can, but you're not doing it. You're delaying marriage. You're delaying having children, for your own satisfaction, for luxuries, so that you can travel, so you can see the world before you start a family, so that you can have a big luxurious house before you have children. And so you cut out those years that you could be having children, because there are people that need to come here from the pre-mortal life. And ideally, they should come to good families. That's the best case scenario. It's not about you. It affects you, but we're called upon to bring those people into this life and be parents to them and help improve, all of civilization, because the base unit of society is the family. So nearly 1/3 of all of our young matrons, 18 to 24, are breaking the law of God and not bearing children. Or if they are having children, are they neglecting the helpless little ones? So those would be like, if you're a mother and you're going to work, not because you need to, but because of basically vanity, because you want to show off, the incredible business person that you are, or the scientist that you are, or, whatever. Or you just want to have luxury. You're placing luxury ahead of the mental and spiritual health of your children. And maybe even like physical health, like, physical security and stuff. Okay. President McKay said, quote, "The more woman becomes like man, the less he will respect her." Of course, those are like punks that would do that, but that's true. The more woman becomes like man, not me. I wouldn't do that. I don't do that, but punks do. The more woman becomes like man, the less he will respect her. Civilization weakens as man's estimate of woman lessens. End quote. We are told that the average age when women cease bearing children is about 26. Yet in these vital years, nearly one of every 3 is working outside of her home. When such masses of mothers are employed out, what may we expect from the offspring? How nearly perfect can a mother be who rushes in the morning to get everybody off and settled for the day, herself included, then returns weary after a hard day of employment to a tired husband who has had a hard day, and to children and youth with problems, and then to her homemaking, cooking, cleaning, and then to a full social calendar? From such homes come many conflicts, marital problems, and divorces, and delinquent children. Few people in trouble ever ascribe their marital conflicts to these first causes, but blame each other for the problems which were born and nurtured in strained environments. Certainly, the harmonious relationship of father and mother and emotional climate prevailing between parents gives soundness and security to children. Okay, I don't think I'm going to read this. I'm going to read maybe just part of this one, but let's go to this. This is President Ezra Taft Benson, April 1986 General Conference, cleaning the inner vessel. All right, he says, so this part isn't about 2 salaries specifically, but back to just the general concept of materialism and pursuit of money and wealth. But this one includes the element of pride. Okay. Pride is characterized by, what do I want out of life, rather than by what would God have me do with my life. It is self-will. It is self-will opposed to God's will. It is the fear of man over the fear of God. Pause right here. You guys, how many times do we hear in, commercials and pop culture, you need to work on yourself. You need to put yourself first. What makes you happy? It's so disgusting. I can't stand it when I hear that stuff, these buzzwords and phrases. It's, let me tell you something. if I had, I'm not trying to like be prideful here, but if I had done this, I would not be doing this YouTube channel right now. My plan, I've said this before, my plan was to stay in Utah, to go to the University of Utah, get my accounting degree, and become an accountant. Maybe a CPA. That was like the best case scenario. I was thinking maybe CPA. But we were prompted to start our family, and it interfered with going to school full time. And long story short, my plans changed. And it was not, at the time, it was not glamorous. It was not what I wanted. It was hard. It took sacrifice. You know, I saw other people my same age living in nicer conditions, feeling like I was like a failure at certain times. Like, man, I have really screwed up. But I knew that I hadn't because I was following promptings. We followed promptings to start our family. We actually almost bought a house before we had our first child. We were in the process of buying a house in Layton, and we'd already like what is the terminology? We put in a bid, or basically we were in the process of like closing, and somehow by a miracle, and it probably was a miracle, the buyer or the sellers let us out of the contract. But we were like so close to really screwing everything up had we bought that home. And it was a nice home. We were happy about it. It was going to be great. I was so excited about it. But had we done that, my life would have been radically different. And anyway, so I could have followed my own path, and I feel like it was a good idea. Like going to school for accounting, that's a very good idea. There's plenty of job demand for accountants. But the Lord had other plans, and I followed it, and it was scary, but he provided a way for Jenica to stay home. And we've been able to have some luxuries and enjoy ourselves and travel, you know. But it's led us to this point, and I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be at this point in my life. And this is not something that I could have planned. It was God's plan. I just followed it. But some people would persist and be like, no, I've got to climb up the corporate ladder. I need to reach this position or this rank. Maybe if you're like in the military or whatever it is that you're trying to do that brings you attention and status. Some people will go with that rather than listening to the promptings that are less glamorous. Okay, continuing. Humility responds to God's will, to the fear of his judgments and the needs of those around us. To the proud, the applause of the world rings in their ears. To the humble, the applause of heaven warms their hearts. Someone has said, quote, pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man. Yeah, that is true. It's called the pecking order. It's called, I need to be above you. It's shameful. It's shameful, and it's childish, and it's animalistic. It's the natural man that I need to be above you. And I need to show that by the house that I own, the car that I drive, the clothes that I wear, the job that I have, the book that I wrote, this accomplishment, that accomplishment. Look at my trophy. Look at my collection. Okay, continuing. Of one brother, the Lord said, quote, I, the Lord, am not well pleased with him, for he seeketh to excel, and he is not sufficiently meek before me. Doctrine and Covenants 58:41. The two groups in the Book of Mormon that seem to have the greatest difficulty with pride are the learned and the rich. 2 Nephi 28:15. But the word of God can pull down pride. So I think I'm going to end it there. And don't take from this that I think, or even that they think, that it's bad to acquire wealth, because people that do acquire wealth are able to contribute to the church, and they're able to do a lot of good things of their own free will. and they're not compelled in all things. So I think generally speaking, it's good, and we should all try and do that, but we have to have our priorities straight. We have to have God and family before luxury, right? I'll close on this. There is this ridiculous game that came out probably like in 2008 or something like that. It's called Second Life. And I remember when it came out, my dad told me about it because it was like this new thing. It's like this silly like game. It's like where you play with other people online. This was kind of like a new concept back then, before like Xbox Live or things like that, where, you have like an avatar and, you can become even more fake and ridiculous than you are in real life. Usually by purchasing these like digital assets with money, remote meetings, yeah, let's just get rid of Zoom and those other applications. You guys, this is the future right here of remote meetings. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's this like silly interactive game where you like just go around and discover worlds, create worlds. When I first played it the first time, I was disappointed because I wanted to like have a house or like have like my own property, and you have to like pay for that. And there's people that find the motivation to do that, the money, the motivation, it's worth it to them to pay for these clothes and property and whatever. And oh yeah, and you can fly. By the way, you can fly in Second Life, not in First Life, not like this, but you can do it in Second Life. And really, this is life. This is First Life. There's more possibilities here because it's not real, but this is how people actually do First Life. When you see people that are kind of like, not everybody, but some people that you see that are just like overdone, whether it's the way that they dress or the way that they decorate their house, the things that they do. This is really what they're doing just in real life. They're playing a silly, vain, meaningless game because once this life is over, none of this is going to matter. It's going to be irrelevant. It's just going to be like, do you care about what things were like in kindergarten? Do you like look back at kindergarten and dwell on your experiences in kindergarten? Do they like affect your life today? Of course, like we developed during that time, but like kindergarten is come and gone. The fight that you got in with that kid at the slide, that's probably not weighing on your mind anymore. And so many people put so much effort into these silly things of this world, these materialistic things. And it's going to come and go. And then what? If you're not living the gospel, if you're not being a disciple of Jesus Christ, if you don't have your priorities straight, you're not going to have this after this life. You'll be in a kingdom of glory, but if you don't reach exaltation in the celestial kingdom, like you lost. Game over. You lost. So anyway, yeah. So that's it. I think I'm going to research this more, see what church leadership has said about these different topics related to personal finance and money and all that stuff. Just because. And then after that, maybe I'll look into some other topic, and I want to keep filling out this spreadsheet and just collect all these. It's really helpful for like when I have a talk. I can nowadays I can easily refer to this and find some quotes really quickly. So I'd encourage you to do something similar if you can. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.